Welcome back to another episode of The Summer of Me. I'm really excited. The feedback on this podcast and just everything that we're talking about with Summer of Me has been really positive, and I want to create a safe place for women to feel like they're part of a community. If you're going through something, whether it's a breakup, whether it's a divorce, whether it's just like you're resuscitating your identity and you're trying to figure out what that looks like and how to do it, and you feel alone and you want to talk to other women who are maybe going through some of the same things, I've created a Substack community where you can join. It's linked in my Instagram bio. It's free to join. And my goal here is just to really bring life to the quote that we're all just walking each other home. I want you to feel comfortable in there to share your story, to ask questions, to talk about the things you might be struggling with, and really to just build a bigger community of women who are all coming up for air, who are all trying to help each other out. We are nothing without each other. And ultimately, my vision with this group is that we can all just band together and be a soft place to land for somebody that might be going through a really hard time. So I encourage you to join it. Click the link in my Instagram bio. It's on Substack. You may have to create a free account, but it's super simple to join, and we would love to have you. Thanks for listening. Today, we are talking about micro-abandoning, and you guys have heard me use this term. This actually came to me in a therapy session. I was talking to my therapist, who I love, shout out Grace. I was like, I don't understand how I've gotten to this place. I don't understand how, this was actually not even in my divorce. This was in a relationship that I was in after my divorce. And I was like, I don't understand how I've gotten to this dark of a place. I'm this far down the rabbit hole. It's this, this much pain basically. And she's like, well, you've continued to micro-abandon yourself. In every small decision, in every situation, you abandon yourself. And so you get to the end of it and you're fully abandoned. And it was like this aha moment for me of feeling like, wow, that makes so much sense for every part of my life, where I have continued to ignore my needs, and not in a big blatant bitch, you don't get needs. You don't have needs. None for you. No. It's like these tiny little, it's fine. I'll be okay. Whatever. Never mind. I'll deal with it. I got it handled. All of these little things where it's like your brain or your heart are thinking no, you need that. Or no, you really should do that. Or no, you should really push the limit here. Or no, you should really have a higher expectation. And then it's like, it's not worth it. It's not worth the chaos. It's not worth the fight. It's not worth the stress or how many times as a mom specifically, it's like, I just don't want to explain myself one more time. I just don't want to have the conversation. Never mind. Even the kids, sometimes, here's a great example for you. Nora and Memphis are so freaking picky. And sometimes it's exhausting to try to be like, eat this, do this. I want to explain myself why you should, why, and it's like, so then this is a great form of micro-abandoning that probably doesn't matter all that much, but it does matter, because ultimately if I'm like, okay, well, yeah, never mind, just eat a banana, just have a yogurt, whatever. If I continue to do that, the only food that Nora and Memphis are going to ever eat is yogurt or a banana, which is actually the case. I have micro-abandoned their eating habits all the way to full abandonment. They freaking suck at eating. And it's easy to explain into terms like that, but when you think about it in your life and in the emotional things that you go through in the relationships and the just different parts of our life, if you continue to micro-abandon yourself in these little tiny moments, you're going to get to the place where the plot is lost. It's all over, because all of those little things add up to be one big thing. We talk a lot about in culture, people talk about I was abandoned as a child. I was, neglected, all these things. And those things are big, right? If you've been abandoned as a child, that's a very traumatic event. One of your parents left, or even with death, there's a lot of abandonment. I've worked through a lot of my dad's death stuff recently, and there's a lot of abandonment that comes when you lose a parent, even if it wasn't on purpose, right? You still feel abandoned. You're created to be with that parent, and then they're gone and you feel abandoned. You feel like, where's my dad? I want to call him. I want to see him. I want to go fishing with him. All these things. I feel abandoned even though it wasn't on purpose. And so we talk a lot about big abandonment, but I think there's not enough focus on how crucial it is to not micro-abandon ourselves in these tiny little moments. So we're going to talk about it a little bit more today. I'm going to dive into this with a little bit of research psychology, just some stats. You guys know I freaking love a fact. But also just some of my own experiences and kind of how you can be, again, one of my things here with the Summer of Me podcast is just creating awareness in some of these things. And so much of this, when I was going through different relationships and going through my divorce, I just didn't even know. I didn't even know that micro-abandonments were a thing. I didn't even know that people had needs that they just dismissed. I just was like, well, this is my life. These are the cards I've been dealt. This is what happened. And I think that the more aware we can be, the more proactive we can be with communicating in our relationships and actually making them productive and fruitful. So the definition that I wish that somebody would have given me, because it would have opened my eyes probably a lot sooner in my life, is microabandonments are the small repeated decisions to ignore your own needs in order to preserve connection, peace, or image. Connection, peace, or image, you guys. These things are the vital components of a healthy relationship, if you were to think about it, right? Like, I want to have connection with this person. I want to have peace in the relationship. I want the image to be really good. That was for me. Like, I wanted the image of my family to be really good. I could give two fucks what the image of my family is now. I know deep down, and I live here in my home with my kids, and I co-parent with my ex-husband. Like, I know what the dynamic is. I don't need anybody to see or interpret what the image is. But that at one point in my life was like, that is what a good relationship is. It looks good. Okay. Psychologists call these self-silencing behaviors. So research from the University of Rochester shows women self-silence at significantly higher rates than men, especially in relationships where they fear conflict, rejection, or chaos. For me, it was always chaos. I did not want to create chaos. I worked really hard, especially with 5 kids, to create peace and in a controlled dynamic. And I really I look back at different parts of my life, and I was so hardcore on like controlling the narrative in every situation. And I've had to unlearn so much of that. And that even feels vulnerable to say out loud, because nobody wants to be controlling. But I really worked tirelessly to kind of control how things operated, how things looked. Part of it was because there was like a lot of kids and a lot of things going on. And part of it was because that was what kept me sane and calm and at peace. But it was really because I feared conflict. I didn't want to be rejected or abandoned. I didn't want to have this like level of chaos that I'd worked so hard to, avoid. And so basically, I always tried to be the cool girl in relationships. Like, I was the chilled, laid back, hey, no, it's okay. You can cancel on me tonight. I'm cool. I got stuff. I got it. No, dude, I was not cool. I was not chill. I was not laid back. I was stressed as fuck on the inside. But I learned that if I just abandoned those needs just once, and then it was just twice, and then it was every time, that I would be interpreted as like, oh, this girl's cool, this girl's chill. We know this because you've maybe heard this in previous episodes. That is not what makes you magnetic. That is actually not what makes you cool. What makes you cool is putting your foot down, having needs, having desires, having a fucking backbone. That is what makes you a cool girl. I was the person who was like, girls are like, I want the princess treatment, whatever. I was like, could not be me. I could not be further from that. Why don't you know what? You go, I remember when I was married, I'd be like, you go play sports, you go do whatever you want to do. I'll hold it down here. There ain't a need in sight, honey. I don't need anything. I was cool. I was chill. I was laid back. That doesn't get you anywhere. Being laid back and being easygoing is nervous system management. That's simply what it is. It was my coping mechanism to manage my nervous system, because I couldn't face the unknown of rejection, of chaos, of getting in a fight with somebody, of feeling like I was being unchosen, or feeling like I was being an inconvenience. That was like too much nervous system activation for me. That made me too uncomfortable. So I was like, the controlling thing I can do subconsciously, the controlling thing I can do is just abandon all my needs so that I can make sure everybody else's needs are met, because that is way safer. I still to this day hate having needs. I'll be honest with you. It is uncomfortable for me to be like, no, I remember I was dating this guy over the summer, like just casually. And I remember being like, no, I actually need this. Like, this is a need that I actually have. I hate to be this person, but like, I need you to reach out to me more. I need you to pay more attention, like whatever it was. I don't even remember the exact situation, but like, I remember having a hard conversation where I had to address that I needed something. And I felt so raw. Like, it was just like I had splayed myself open, because needs are so uncomfortable when you have gone so many years micro-abandoning yourself. Like, you get really comfortable not having needs. So in all of this, you think that you're actually keeping the relationship stable, but at the end of the day, you're just abandoning yourself. And at some point, you have to face the music of that. That does not go away. That problem only continues to grow and to build and to fester until you actually face the reality of it. So this is based on actual research. There are 5 main ways that women like micro-abandon themselves, 5 main situations basically. And we're going to go through them so that maybe you will resonate with one of them. Maybe you'll think like, holy shit, that is me. Or maybe it'll just help you to have future awareness to not do these things. As always, I try to balance this with like, some of the things that I've gone through, but also like I haven't lived every story and every path. And so if these are things that you have experienced, or Maybe you have different ones. Please chime in, either in the comments or like send me a DM, because I think that it's important to kind of bring life to all of these things so that there's different levels of awareness that we can all kind of go through. Number one is minimizing your feelings. This is the simplest one. I think we all do this from time to time. It's just important that you're not doing this every single situation, where you're not continuing to do it and where it grows and builds. We all want to be like the person who doesn't, put their foot down with everything. So you say, it's fine. It's not a big deal. I'm probably overreacting. I'll get over it. It's cool. We'll do it next time, whatever. If there's never a next time, you are this is like self-neglect, basically. You are continuing to neglect the things that you need by dismissing yourself. That other person's getting their needs met. Like, oh, I don't want to go there for okay, it's fine. I know that sounds like not a big deal. Okay, fine. Go to the fucking Mexican restaurant, whatever. If you are constantly ignoring that need, you're going to build resentment. And when you build resentment, it's going to harbor in your body, and you're going to start having like a visceral reaction to some of these things. I know when I was married, one of the things, and I've talked about this, I think before, I didn't want to have to go to family for dinner every Friday night. I just didn't. It made me nervous. That relationship there was elements of it that were unhealthy. And yet I continued to be like, whatever, it's fine. Okay, it's fine. Until there was like weeks where I would throw up on the way there. I would have nervous diarrhea. I would be like so frustrated or such resentment, or have like these just like strong feelings that it was like, if it would have just been like, okay, yeah, no worries, we can skip this week or whatever. But it was never really like that. And it continued to build until basically I couldn't handle it anymore. Like my body was like, we're not doing this. Like, we cannot do this. Studies show that suppressing your emotions increases cortisol, decreases relationship satisfaction, and creates chronic detachment. And this is exactly what happened in my marriage. There was chronic detachment. The more times you're like, it's fine, never mind, you just create distance. It's like, you clearly are not here for me. I'm not clearly here for you, because we're not communicating this. And like, you just start to slowly detach. You start to, people are like, oh, we grew apart. It's because you're not communicating. It's because your needs aren't being met, or one person's needs are only being met. That is chronic detachment. And this is a quickest way to break up a relationship or a marriage. Have the feelings, express the feelings, exclaim the feelings. Don't say it's fine. It's not fucking fine. It's not fine. Be okay with it being like, this isn't fine. This is a hill I'm willing to die on. Because if it's not a hill you're willing to die on now, it's going to be a hill you're willing to die on later. I promise you. Shrinking to keep somebody else comfortable. This is something that came up in my life a lot with friendship. I really felt like I was, at the time I was doing network marketing, I was really grinding in this business. I was pushing, and I felt like it was something I couldn't even talk about because I didn't have friends that were in the same scenario. And so I shrunk myself. I didn't talk about work. I didn't push myself the ways I wanted to push myself because I felt like, nobody gets it. It's okay. Like, whatever, it's fine. I'm not going to like do those things. And I shrunk myself. I dimmed my own light. And, maybe you've done this in a relationship where it's like, I don't feel like I can be the full capacity of what I am because that's going to be too much for that person. This comes up a lot in dating. I've talked about this in previous episodes, but it's like when you feel like, oh, I have too much going on compared to all these other girls that this person might be talking to. Yeah. Okay. And ... what? Like, you're going to pretend you're not that person for the rest of your life? You're going to get rid of all the great things in your life that make you magnetic and creative and different and unique, and you're going to get rid of all of those to shrink yourself for this person? That is a micro-abandonment that will catch up to you so fucking fast and it'll make your head spin. Women do this because our brain is wired for social connection, basically. And so we want to fit in. We want to be part of the tribe. We want to feel like we belong in something because it feels safer than being big. It feels safer than being unique and different. And if I could just teach you one thing from this episode, get comfortable being different. I tell my kids this all the time. They're like, when can we get Instagram? When can we get social media? My oldest is 13. When you're in college. And people are like, oh yeah, you're never going to last. You bet your ass I'm going to last that long, number one. And number two, it's not even for the social media premise. It's for the fact that like, I want my kids to get so comfortable being weird, get so comfortable being big and different. And yes, your rules are going to be different. Okay, great. Get comfortable with that. Get comfortable with being the kid that's like, I don't have Instagram, whatever. I don't really fucking care what the rest of you guys are doing on there. Because the more you get used to fitting in and conforming and doing what everybody else is doing, you're going to micro-abandon yourself in all those situations. You're going to abandon all the things that make you unique because it doesn't let you fit into the pack. The pack has no place here. We are not part of the pack. We are meant to be unique and different and establish our own ground and create this like wave that only you can create. And so I really encourage you, if you are shrinking to keep other people comfortable in your life, whether that's in a relationship or just, online or in friendships or whatever, stop shrinking. Start becoming big. Take up space. You deserve to take up space. Number three is overfunctioning. You do everything not because you want to, but because you don't trust others to hold it together. This was like my biggest pain point. And one of the ways that I got rid of this was actually like moving far away from all of my comforts, all of my family, all these things. I don't necessarily always recommend that because I think that like that's a dramatic way to kind of handle this. But I was such an overfunctioner because I felt like that was what made me look good. That was what made me the good girl. That was what made me valuable, was like overfunctioning. I was working. I was, being an incredible wife. I was being an incredible mom. I was doing all these things. At one point I was homeschooling my kids, running a 6-figure business. I was running an Etsy shop, staying up till 2 a.m. packing. Like I was doing all these things and I wore it as a badge of fucking honor because that was like, if I don't do all of this, my whole life collapses, number one. But number two, this is where I see my value. And so I abandoned all the little tiny needs that I had in those seasons of like stopping, taking a break, taking a rest, breathing. Like there was no room for me. I abandoned every single part of myself in that season of my life because I knew that like this is what keeps the world this is what keeps my world turning. So the belief here is like, if I stop, everything collapses. That is self-abandonment prison. You will never get out of that until you intentionally stop making everybody else's world go around at the expense of your own stillness and rest. Number 4 is ignoring your body signals. I talked about this a little bit just a minute ago, but this is something that I think women especially, like we always hear people say like, I'm a mom, I don't get sick, I can't get sick. Like your body is likely signaling like you need rest, you need sleep. When I was in a very toxic relationship, I'm sure you can fill in the blanks here, I was getting strep like 3 to 4 times a year. Now, if you really want to get into the nitty gritty of this and like the body keeps score and all these things, like there's a lot tied to like your throat and strep and how your body's like processing different emotions. Since I've broken up with this person, have not gotten sick once, let alone strep. I'm not kidding you. I was at the place where I was like, I need to get my tonsils out. I don't know what's wrong with me. I never had strep as a kid. I had it for the 3 years or 2 years I was in this relationship. I had strep probably 8 times, like not exaggerating. It was so toxic to my body. And my body was sending me all these signals and I was micro-abandoning myself. I knew exactly why I was getting sick. I knew the stress that I was under. I knew the emotions that I was under that were linked to this feeling and this, this strep in my body. And my internal radar was going off, and guess what I did? I fucking muted that button, mute, because I was micro-abandoning myself because I didn't want to have to change what was happening because man, that was going to blow my life up. And it did, obviously. But with that being said, like the sooner you can get comfortable listening to your body, paying attention to these signals, overriding, like, your feeling of like, I'm just going to ignore that. It's fine. I'm just like beaten down. I'm just exhausted. I'm overwhelmed. Like, no, your body is screaming at you. You have to listen to it. And then the last thing that we do to micro-abandon ourselves, a very common way, is you stay in situations where your needs constantly go unmet. You only have needs because they're not being met. Like if you're constantly having needs and you're like, what, why? It's because somebody's not meeting them. Does that make sense? It's not this catastrophic, like somebody's hurting you or whatever. Like it's just like low level starvation. It's like, I have a need that's not being met and I'm staying in this relationship. That need only exists because it's not being met. So your emotional needs basically just continue to get bumped. They continue to get pushed down the line. It's not important today. It's not important tomorrow. Guess what? It's not going to be important next week or next fucking month either. I promise you, it's never going to be important unless you make it important and you stay in these situations where they're never being met. I did this for years, you guys. I stayed in a marriage where I was like, my needs aren't being met. My needs aren't being met. Sometimes I would speak up. Sometimes I would say something, but most of the time I wouldn't because it was inconvenient. And if I had needs, that meant things had to change. And if things had to change, that meant it got really uncomfortable. And I wasn't comfortable being uncomfortable or putting other people in a discomfort for that matter. So until then, you remain loyal to a dynamic that isn't loyal to you. And this is the micro-abandonment that leads to the big one, which is you leave yourself. Ultimately, you choose the relationship, you choose the pattern, you choose the comfort of whatever you're in, even though it feels uncomfortable. It's not. That's actually your comfort. It's a familiar hell versus an unfamiliar heaven. That is the best way that I can explain this dynamic. You leave yourself because it's like, I know what I'm going to get here. I know my needs aren't going to be met, and I know I'm going to have to abandon myself in this situation, but I know what to expect. I can control the dynamic versus I'm going to leave this. I'm going to leave this familiar hell. I don't know what's on the other side, but it could be an unfamiliar heaven, but I don't know for sure. So I'm going to stay in this hell. That is the number one way that we abandon ourselves. We stay in these situations until we get to a place where we've either been pushed off the cliff, something's blown up. It's a way bigger thing than it needed to be if we would have just chosen in those micro little moments to choose ourselves. There's 3 psychological drivers that create these things. Number 1 is attachment conditioning. We've talked about this. If you, a lot of this has to do with how you were raised, the kind of childhood that you had, the kind of parents you had. Maybe it was inconsistent emotional care. Maybe you're wired to earn connection by minimizing your needs. There's so many things here. If you have not, if you're struggling with this and you haven't gone down that rabbit hole, I encourage you to do that. I know people are hesitant to kind of get into their childhood because they don't want to disregard what they maybe think was this perfect childhood, but some of these things really matter. And it's important to know what the triggers or the habits that you the conditioning that you were created. Cognitive dissonance. Oh my God, this is such a powerful thing. If you don't know about cognitive dissonance, you tell yourself it's not that bad. You basically rewire your brain to think it's not that bad. It's like gaslighting yourself essentially, because the truth would actually require a life change that you're simply not ready to make. And so you convince yourself that it's not that bad. Oh, this is how everybody lives. This is how, every relationship is. Marriage is hard. Okay, well, is it hard enough that you're throwing yourself, you're barfing every week on the way to your in-laws? And is it hard enough that you're shitting your pants because you have such severe stress, or that you're getting strep 8 times a year because you're in an emotionally toxic relationship? No, that's cognitive dissonance, you guys. And then you have nervous system adaptation. This is if chaos or emotional instability was normal in your past, your body believes that self-sacrifice is safety. And that's just conditioning. We talked about this before, but basically it's if you have recorded this tape, if you have this track going in your body and something signals it, it's going to be oh, I know what happens here. I know how to play this tape. I know what to do, versus reconditioning it. And so we get into these self-abandonment behaviors because of these 3 things. So last but not least, here's how to, we're going to talk about a few different ways that you can stop micro-abandoning yourself. But ultimately, if I were to say, to sum it all up, it's just to choose yourself. It's the complete opposite. So you've micro-abandoned yourself all these years. It's not one big, damn it, I'm going to put my foot down. This whole thing is fucked. And let's start all over, blah, blah. No. That's not going to work for anybody. And you're going to look like a psychopath. Here's what you need to do. You need to choose yourself. Little moments. Ask myself, what do I want in this? Little moments of honesty. Am I actually happy in this? Am I actually fulfilled? Do I actually like this job? Do I actually like this person? Am I with this person because I think they're amazing, or am I with this person because they fill a need for me? Reverse the I'm fine reflex. Stop saying I'm fine. Stop saying it's fine, whatever, never mind. I can't tell you how many times I was whatever, never mind. I don't say that anymore. I do, whatever, it's not fine. It's not fine. Replace it with I'm figuring out what I need. I'm figuring out what I need. Take some time. Take a beat. Emotions take time. They need space. I'm figuring out what I need. If somebody's oh, we can't do that, instead of being oh, it's fine. Okay, I need to figure out what I need. Period. You're allowed to have needs. I know it's a miracle concept to some people. You're allowed to take the time. You're allowed to take the space. You are allowed to process things. You don't have to give anybody an answer right now, and it's not fine. It doesn't have to be fucking fine ever. Okay? Notice your body's yes or no. Your body knows faster than your brain. It is amazing to me when I go see Dr. Jake, he'll be you need to relax. You're really uptight. What's going on? What's this? And I'm how do you know that? And he's I can literally tell by the way you're standing, your hips, this, that, the other thing. Obviously he's an expert, but I really encourage you, start tapping into your body. And one of the ways that you can do this is use it, move it, think about it, treat it right. The more tuned in with your body you are, the more emotionally tuned in with your body you're going to be. Give yourself what other people will not give you. You are your own best advocate. You're your only advocate in a lot of situations. And so giving yourself, if you've asked for a need to be met and it's not being met by that person, give it to yourself. Give yourself the rest. Give yourself the validation. Talk positively. Give yourself affirmations. If you need standards, set them for yourself. We are a mirror to the things we want to attract. If you are saying, I have all these needs, but you're not meeting your own needs yourself, it's going to be really hard to receive those from other people, or for other people to see the value in those needs for you. And then last but not least, make choices based on your future self, not the fear in this current situation. Stop making choices based on a familiar hell and start making choices on an unfamiliar heaven. What could it be? I have a friend who every day her affirmation is, show me how good it can get, God. Show me how good. We don't know. You can't see around corners. You don't know what's coming. Start making decisions for that person, not the person who's sitting in this familiar hell being I know what happens here. I know what happens. I remember being would I rather live like this for the rest of my life, or would I rather see what's on the other side. And I had so much excitement when I would be like, I'd meditate into this and I'd be like, what is on the other side? What could be coming? Who could be coming? How could my life look different? But then I'd get back into reality and I'd be like, well, I know what happens here. I know how this goes. I've done this for years. I know exactly what happens here. But I would stay in it because I wasn't ready to choose myself and to create discomfort in that moment, because I was comfortable being like kind of living in this dark place. I just knew what to expect. So ask yourself, what would the woman I'm becoming do in this situation? Not what would I do in this moment? We know what you do. You're still fucking sitting there. What would the woman I'm becoming do in this situation? What would the woman that I want to be? What would the woman that I want to be do in this situation? And then make decisions according to that, not to who you are right now as the person who has micro-abandoned themselves to get to this place that you're stuck in. In closing of this, I want you to understand something. This is sneaky. This is not these like obvious things, and you're not going to be like, oh my God, you're not going to be able to pinpoint all of these moments in your life because it's sneaky. It comes in like very quiet ways, and it's not until you've done this for years, months, whatever it is, that you get to a place where you're like, God, nothing is being met in my life. None of these needs are being met. It's micro-abandonments in some ways are socially rewarded. It's good to be the cool girl, to be easygoing. They're praised as being chill, you're strong, you're accommodating. I'll never forget, I was like barely texting this guy and he like canceled, and I was like, this was, when I was in this pattern, and I was like, oh, hey, it's cool. And he's like, man, you're so cool. Like, it's so great that you're like, thanks for being flexible, whatever. Well, it was like, not till he canceled on me like 3 times where he was like, you're so flexible. I'm like, no, I'm fucking not. I'm actually so unavailable. Like, I'm not doing this anymore with you because this is a fucking joke. But he got really comfortable really quickly being like, this girl's chill. This girl's flexible. That's what I allowed. That's what I tolerated. That's what I got in reception of that. You don't lose yourself in one moment. You lose yourself in a million micro-abandonments. And you find yourself in a million micro returns and a million micro choices that you make to get yourself back. Coming back to yourself doesn't require a reinvention, just a small daily choice to stop leaving yourself behind. I encourage you to take some of these, be intentional about them, and start watching how your life unfolds. Thanks for listening to The Summer of Me. You can listen to episodes on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen to podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube. Come hang out and follow my chaos on Instagram @KendraForNow. See you next time.